Man, I gotta say, pretty depressing it's happening in my state, but it also doesn't surprise me. While I do live in a pretty blue state, because we've got some of the biggest, bluest cities in the entire country, the countryside of Washington has, I mean, literal compounds hidden out there of neo-Nazis and far-right militias that live on the edges of the cities, just waiting for the day of the rope, as they call it, when they get to ride their militias in on their trucks with all armed and loaded, ready to wipe out all the brown people and all the Democrat voters in the cities. These are some pretty awful people, and when they come into the city, they're there to start shit. But they're there. They're close by. They're in this state, which is why it doesn't necessarily surprise me to find out that fires have been set in drop boxes to destroy hundreds of ballots in Washington and damaged 3 in the state of Oregon. Incendiary devices were set off Monday at 2 ballot drop boxes, one in Portland and another in nearby Vancouver, Washington, destroying hundreds of ballots in what one official called a direct attack on democracy, about a week before a heated election day. I feel what's really important to showcase about this entire story is the fact that Republicans and Trump supporters, we know they're the ones doing this. These are blue cities where the ballots are being burned. No progressive would burn blue ballots in a blue city. The Republicans are the ones who do this kind of thing, pretty much solely. And the reason they do this is they recognize they can't win fair and square, but they also recognize that they don't actually care about winning fair and square. The Republicans really love to talk a big game about how much they care about fairness and keeping to the rule of law and all that, but it's really all just projection. In reality, the Democrats stick more stringently to the rules and expectations of the law than any other party. The Republicans are by far the most corrupt, down to just simply being the most dishonest in their rhetoric and statements on a daily basis. The Republicans don't care about democracy. They don't care about the people's vote winning out. And if all they care about is winning, and they will destroy ballots via destruction, of like literal arson, if they think it gets them closer to winning, because they don't care about achieving a fair victory. It's just win at all costs. And I would be fine if they at least admitted that's all they cared about, and that they don't actually care about any of these rules or regulations or laws, or any, like, fair proceedings for the election. But simultaneously, they are constantly complaining about how we need to do voter ID to make sure there's no electoral interference and that there's not any illegal voting. They constantly change that the election is rigged, or claim the election is rigged. They constantly change that, or claim that Republican votes were changed out for Democrat votes. And yet they are the ones, the same people complaining about these things, are the ones going out and destroying ballot boxes and destroying people's vote in this election, taking their vote away. You're projecting there is no proof that it was Republicans? Oh, I'm sure, Pastor Dean. No proof whatsoever. It's just Democrats going into blue cities and burning overwhelmingly blue ballots in blue districts and blue areas in a blue state. Absolutely nothing to see here. Like Pastor Dean said, move along. That's right. See, guys, you just gotta make sure. You don't use your critical thinking. They don't want you to use your critical thinking. I love having Pastor Dean here, because we have, like, an apologist for Trump and this type of thing here to make the arguments in real time, and I get to just say, oh yeah, so here's what the MAGA types say, here's why they say it. The reason why they say you're projecting there's no proof this was Republicans, because if they acknowledge that a Republican did this, or that any Republican did this, then it shows that Trump has at least some supporters that genuinely don't care about democracy, and the Dems are not being hysterical when they say that Trump and MAGA want to destroy American democracy, because it's not being hysterical. It's not an over-exaggeration. It is, in fact, vital that you gaslight the voter base into thinking that it's not happening when it is. The early morning fire at the Dropbox in Portland was extinguished quickly thanks to a suppression system inside the box, as well as a nearby security guard, police said, and just 3 ballots were damaged there. Thankfully, it doesn't seem like too much damage has been done. But within a few hours, another fire was discovered at a transit center drop box across the Columbia River in Vancouver. Vancouver is the biggest city in Washington's 3rd congressional district, the site of what is expected to be one of the closest U.S. House races in the country, between first-term Democratic Representative Marie Gluesenkamp Perez and Republican challenger Joe Kent. This is actually very important, by the way, because these burning ballots could not even be for Trump. They could actually be specifically Republicans burning ballots to help the Republican win in a more local election. Because to be fair, that matters a lot. If you're an educated, insane Republican willing to do this kind of thing, you would burn ballots for no other purpose than to try and change the results of a local election. For those who don't know, something as simple as the local state Supreme Court judge can decide, or not even a local Supreme Court judge, it can just be a local judge. Literally, an elected local judge could shoot down legislation put forth by the governor of the state. A really good example of this is in California, where they've banned semi-automatic rifles, and they banned a bunch of other shit as well. A judge in California vetoed the ban. Just a random elected judge just vetoed the ban in California. It may get reinstated, but it was vetoed nonetheless. Judges have that level of power, so when it comes to any form of local race, it would not surprise me if some crazy out there is willing to take it into their own hands to try to lean the results of a local race in their favor. And it would probably be a Republican, considering, you know? The ballot box in Vancouver also had a fire suppression system inside, but that failed to prevent hundreds of ballots from burning. Ooh, a lot of ballots were lost in that one, said Greg Kimsey, the longtime elected auditor in Clark County, Washington, which includes Vancouver. He urged voters who dropped their ballots in the transit center box after 11 a.m. Saturday to contact his office for a replacement ballot. At least there is a way of kind of trying to fix it, but man, a lot of people are going to think they voted, but their ballot was destroyed. That sucks. Regardless of who they voted for, even if they were Republican ballots, it's shitty for people to lose their vote. That shouldn't happen, right? Even if they were Trump supporters or Republicans, they should still get their vote through. Their votes shouldn't be burned. Heartbreaking, Kimsey said. It's a direct attack on democracy. The office will be increasing how frequently it collects ballots and changing collection times to the evening, Kimsey said, to keep the ballot boxes from remaining full of ballots overnight when similar crimes are considered more likely to occur. You notice how the Republican media is going to ignore the absolute fuck out of this story because it doesn't support their narrative? The Republicans love to make a massive deal about completely imagined, debunked in court cases where they argue that Republican ballots were destroyed or not counted, and yet when a real story, undeniable story of someone going out and destroying objectively mostly Democrat ballots via arson, Republican media doesn't give a shit because, well, let's be real, it's because these ballots were for the Dems. The Republicans never actually cared about election security. It's just rhetoric they use to appeal to reasonable, moderate people that do care about election security, and to make it sound like that's an objective they have to appeal to those moderate, reasonable votes. Xander Hall, are you going to cover the FBI, that the FBI already knows who did this and released only they are Republicans and will not release their identity so the criminal does not escape? Wait, so the FBI already knows who did it and has already confirmed they're a Republican? That's really funny, especially considering Pastor Dean in chat coping and saying, we don't know it's a Republican. The office will be increasing how frequently it collects ballots and changing collection times to the evening, Kimsey said, to keep the ballot boxes from remaining full of ballots overnight when similar crimes are considered more likely to occur. That's smart. That's smart. They should not be leaving ballots in overnight. That is when this kind of shit would always have been likely to occur. This should just be standard practice, to be honest. The country also decided late Monday, county also decided late Monday to hire workers through a staffing agency to monitor all of its drop boxes 24 hours a day until the election is over, Kimsey said. The workers will have instructions to simply observe the ballot boxes and not confront anyone. Instead, they will call 911 if they see anything suspicious, he said. Ballot boxes ballot drop boxes, have faced increasing criticism from Republicans and have been the focus of baseless right-wing conspiracy theories in recent years tied to former President Donald Trump's lie that the 2020 election was stolen from him. An Associated Press survey of the state election officials across the U.S. found that there were no widespread issues with drop boxes in 2020, and none that could have affected the results. 6 states have banned ballot drop boxes in 2020. All red states: Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, and South Dakota. Objectively speaking, statistically speaking, less people voting always benefits Republicans. You cannot argue against this fact. You can argue till the cows come home and the Republicans aren't trying to reduce the amount of people voting, but you cannot argue that objectively speaking, the Republicans, gain from less people voting. The lower the voter turnout, the more often Republicans win. It is just that simple. According to research by the Voting Rights Lab, which advocates for expanded voting access, other states have restricted their use, including Ohio and Iowa, which now permits only 1 drop box per county, according to the Brennan Center for Justice. Washington and Oregon, which are both vote-by-mail states, have long used ballot drop boxes. Authorities said at a news conference in Portland that enough material from the incendiary device was recovered to show that the 2 fires Monday were connected, and that they were also connected to an October 8th incident when an incendiary device was placed at a different ballot drop box in Vancouver. No ballots were damaged in that incident, thankfully. So it turns out, yeah, authorities do in fact have enough evidence to connect the attacks to the same person and are tracking down whoever is responsible for this. Surveillance images captured a Volvo pulling up to a drop box in Portland, Oregon, just before security personnel nearby discovered a fire inside the box on Monday. Portland Police Bureau spokesman Mike Benner told a news conference the incendiary devices were attached to the outside of the boxes. The FBI is also investigating. The fire suppression system inside the ballot drop boxes in Washington and Oregon were designed to activate when the temperature inside reaches a certain point, coating ballots with a fire-suppressing powder. Ooh, it's a powder-based fire retardant. That's great. That doesn't ruin the ballots. They're still usable and readable. The system appeared to have worked in the Portland drop box, and security staffers were nearby to help put out the fire. Multnomah County Elections Director Tim Scott said the county has contracted with private security officers to have roving patrols that drive around the county 24 hours a day and put eyes on all drop boxes. He said one of the guards was at the county elections office and heard what sounded like a blast, likely the activation of the fire suppression system, and called police. For unknown reasons, the system failed to prevent the destruction of hundreds of ballots in Vancouver. Gluzenkamp Perez said in a statement that she is requesting an overnight law enforcement presence posted at all ballot drop boxes in Clark County through Election Day. Quote, this is the Democrat nominee, by the way. Southwest Washington cannot risk a single vote being lost to arson and political violence, her statement said. In a video posted on social platform, this is really all you need to know. Democrats scream from the rooftops wanting as many people as possible to vote. Republicans do everything in their power to try to keep people from voting. I think that's interesting. I think that's worth acknowledging. In a video posted on social platform X, Kent also condemned the cowardly act of terrorism. He said he trusted law enforcement to find out who is responsible, urged voters to make sure their ballots are counted, and said he continues to have faith in the ballot drop box system in Washington. No one should be intimidated, Kent said. Voters were encouraged to check their ballot status online at www.votewashington.gov to track its return status. If a returned ballot is not marked as received, voters can print a replacement ballot or visit their local elections department for a replacement, the Secretary of State's official said. Here's a picture of the burned ballot box, by the way, if you guys want to see. It looks like... What the fuck? It looks like ash and goo just turned into slush all around the floor, but it clearly burned the ballot box from the inside because there's like a little bit of burn damage peeking through the metal from the middle of the panel. Yo, Heavy Gretel, good to have you here. How you doing? Oh no, Pastor Dean, we're keeping you around here. Your copium is very valuable for my my commentary. It's nice to have like the conservative immediate response to whatever I say and to be like, oh, that's how they're going to respond. Well, here's why they're responding that way, and here's why it's wrong. It's useful. It's like having a class pet. I can teach the class using a little pet in a cage in the back of the classroom. It's great. John Burnside, 68, said he and his wife dropped off their ballots at the Vancouver box Sunday afternoon and learned about the fire the next morning on the news. He checked the status of their ballots and did not see that they had been received by elections officials and requested new ones. They now plan to either mail their ballots or deliver them in person, he said. Quote, I'm certainly in favor of in-person voting simply because you know your ballot goes through right then, he said. It may be extra work, but it does add a level of security. Fair. There is a level of guaranteed your vote's going to get counted if you vote in person. Although there could be things that get fucked, but overall, it's far more likely. Officials in Portland were able to identify the 3 voters whose ballots were damaged and plan to contact them and provide them replacement ballots. The Multnomah County Sheriff's Office said it would be increasing uninformed and plainclothes patrols around the drop boxes. Monday afternoon, voters dropped off their ballots at the new drop box that replaced the one that had been set on fire in Portland. Pam Parnell said the incident shocked her. Quote, it just seems so wrong, said Parnell, who was dropping off her ballot. We've worked for over 200 years to have a country and to have voting. Oregon Governor Tina Kotek said in a statement, voter intimidation or any criminal act to undermine the upcoming election is un-American and will not be tolerated. Based. Washington Secretary of State Steve Hobbs said the state would not tolerate threats or acts of violence meant to derail voting. Quote, I strongly denounce any acts of terror that aim to disrupt lawful and fair elections in Washington state, he said. Washington Governor Jay Inslee said state and local elections officials were fully dedicated to ensuring every vote is counted accurately. Quote, this is a violent attack on democracy, and we will do everything to keep our election system strong and secure in Washington, Inslee said in a statement. There will be a 24-hour enhanced security around ballot drop-off locations. In Phoenix, last week, officials said roughly 5 ballots were destroyed and others damaged when a fire was set in a drop box at a U.S. Postal Service station there as well. So as you can see, the Republicans, not just the ones elected to office, but the Republican voters themselves are even taking it into their own hands to try and destroy our democracy. As many votes as they can destroy, they will destroy. They are desperate because this may be the last election. The last one where they have a chance to destroy democracy, and if they win, the last chance we have to have a democracy. Anyway. If you found this segment enjoyable, entertaining, or even educational, then please consider leaving a like, whether you're watching live or after the fact when this goes up as a video. Every single thumbs up on my stuff goes a really long way to boost my channel and the algorithm in real time, mind you. And seriously, everyone who goes out of their way to do that, it just takes half a second, and it really does mean a ton to me. Thank you so much for every single like. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you haven't already, consider commenting down below. It actually boosts the effect of the likes, so I really appreciate that too. And of course, if you haven't, consider subscribing and ring the bell icon and turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. Because trust me, if you don't, they won't. And of course, consider following my social medias, which are all linked down below in the description, including my fan Discord server. It's totally free to join, and it's the main hub of my community. In fact, once a week, I host a game event, call-in stream, or watch party there, at least once a week, I should say. And on top of that, I announce all my new uploads and streams there, too. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure to join my Discord. And of course, if you want to support me directly and help me keep the lights on and roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or supporting me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or even buying merch, the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how you support me, though, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.